downtown Aiken has an incredible mix of businesses and buildings and restaurants, and it has so much going for it. And so I think it's really, the conversation should be more about how do we actually improve what we've got, take what we've got, sustain it, and add to it, not how do we sort of create a whole new scheme to come in and create more economic development, when the reality is the brand of economic development we have is historically appropriate. And as I said, there's just no other place like it.
It's not. So we get to the modern time in the past 5 years where there has been a trend over the past 10 years, well, probably 20, to try to diminish local historic guidelines and preservation. So as the town is becoming more viable downtowns, businesses, stores, people are being attracted to historic downtown Aiken. You know, we have all the brown signs coming in downtown. And so there is protective overlays and design review to try to protect, to make sure you don't have speculative development destroying the goose that's laying the golden egg, because people love coming for the pedestrian aspect of it. It appears to be, and I've talked with this with Mike earlier, it appears to be a concerted effort by certain folks to empower speculative development and come in and undermine local controls over economic development.
I mean, Mike, we're seeing that everywhere.
It's
That's
everywhere,
not an
isn't
Aiken
it?
thing. I mean, I'm from Charleston. And
So what is your experience in Charleston? Because that's one of the big things I want to talk about, is this is a national phenomenon, and especially in the state of South Carolina. Because Mike this morning talked about this is the big real estate boom in South Carolina with money and development and corporate development groups coming in and taking advantage of our lax way of protections.
And you're seeing it nationally, but I think you hit the nail on the head. South Carolina is in its biggest boom period in a very, very long time. And so it's attracting incredible wealth for development or investment money. And that's here for one reason, and that's to make money. It's not to make friends. It's not to make better communities. It's to figure out what the best pro forma is to extract as much wealth from the state of South Carolina as possible. So, you know, it's sort of come as a surprise to me to sort of watch what's happened over the last 20 years. But as you know, preservation was the economic development tool for decades. Fix it and they will come.
The Main Street program that helped organize that. And
I mean, look at downtown Charleston.
Right.
Fix it and they will come. You know, we now are in a catastrophic over-tourism situation in Charleston. We have residents leaving the city at an unprecedented rate.
So here's a good point. For you to have a livable, workable city made that constitute with huge, big homes that represented a certain wealth level, how do you entice people to want to come and invest their wealth into these big homes and make it a town they want to live in? And that's an issue you have in Charleston.
Yeah, and so it was always the fear is if it becomes not a great place to live, then people will leave it. And then the houses and the historic buildings are what suffers. The reality is to buy a house in a place like Charleston, you're talking, you know, $4 and $5 million plus houses that cost $100,000 to $200,000 a year in taxes and insurance and basic maintenance. Not talking about painting the house, because that's another $100,000 to $150,000 just to paint a house every 5 to 7 years. You know, these are very expensive houses to upkeep at this point in time. So the reality is, you know, the homeowners and the local business owners are the ones that created the economic development. And now they're the ones that are sort of getting left behind because there's so much more money to be made from the visitor, from the person that doesn't spend more than 48 hours in your town. The state taxes it, the county taxes it. Everybody's making money off of it. So now we're invested in more. And so Charleston was the #1 city in the world or the universe for 13 some odd years. And the difference between Charleston then, before, and now is shocking. And
that's because so much investment's going in just to house as many visitors as possible.
When I worked in real estate development 20 years ago, all the developers in Charleston were local developers, right? They call them country club developers, right? They know somebody that plays golf with an accountant who knows some people who might be interested in investing in a local project. right? Everybody meets everybody, and you go raise some money, you build your project, which in retrospect was such a great control mechanism, because when you have locals invested in projects, they don't want to be associated with projects that people really don't like. But what's happened is all the local developers have been pushed out because the hedge funds and the Chinese capital and money from all over the world has identified this as a top market to generate returns. And so they can pay more. They can do projects for a smaller return. They can have income-producing properties that generate half of the return that anyone who would go get financing would ever need, because these are parts of much larger, sort of suite of investments. And so it's really changed the game. And so we don't have local knowledge and local characters in development anymore, except for the lawyers that help them navigate through the local processes.